Hey there, my name is Matthew 𝐚𝐭𝐬, best-selling author with over 14 years of experience working with over 1,000 clients, from top executives to small business owners. And for the last 2 decades, I've been testing meditation in over 478 real-world cases. And here's the verdict on whether meditation actually works. Does meditation actually work? That's the big question. And I would say even more important question is it worth putting in the time to do meditation? Okay, when I work with people that are super duper busy, execs, busy moms, busy parents, small business owners, and they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Trust me, I was one of them. And I'm like, oh, okay, all you need to do is just sit still for 20 minutes and meditate. It's like, that's the last thing these people want to hear. And that was the last thing I wanted to hear when I was told, hey, meditation's great. Well, we need to break down what the heck meditation even means. And we have to really also understand, like, why are we doing this? Because just like exercise or stretching, right? If the question was, is exercise good? Is stretching good? Well, I guess it is, but stretching the wrong way and for the wrong reasons, and exercising in the wrong way and the wrong reasons actually will create more harm than will help. And meditation is exactly the same case. Let's start with defining what meditation is. So first things first, meditation is defined in the Webster's dictionary as to engage in contemplation or reflection. It's like, okay, cool. But wouldn't you agree that certain types of contemplation and reflection could be beneficial and other types of contemplation and reflection could be harmful? Well, you would be correct, because that's the case, and that's what I have found. And so what I want to break down for you here is, what are some of the ways that the popular ways of meditating that are out there, and like I said, that I've even taught, that are more harmful. So we want to talk about when meditation can be harmful, and then obviously want to talk about when meditation is helpful and the kinds of meditations that are helpful. And so we have to ask this critical question, right? We have to ask, what's the objective of meditating? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay. Now, more often than not, when people talk about starting to meditate, they're usually doing it because they're trying to de-stress. Okay. So now we got to talk about, well, what the heck does that mean? So real quickly, I want to share with you kind of this quick little diagram of what stress is and kind of where kind of meditation seems to be the tool that people go to. So let's just start with what stress is. Okay, so we have, we're engaging in the world, and then all of a sudden something happens. I kind of call it something happens in your life, an external stressor, right? And the alarm goes off in your body, right? We'll call it the stress response, or the alarm. Okay, stress response. And more often than not, and I've seen personal development organizations build their entire business on this right here, which is a great business model because it'll keep you as a customer forever, because there's no escape, right? They'll teach different meditative techniques, okay, that turn off the alarm system, right? So how do we turn the alarm system off? Okay, those are different breathing practices, certain reflections, focusing your mind in a particular way, right? And all these things turn the alarm off. So if I feel overwhelmed, if I feel anxious, if I feel sad, if I feel hopeless, if I feel these emotions I don't want to feel, well, there are different meditative techniques that you can do to literally get the brain to stop producing that experience. One of the techniques that I used to teach people all the time that I learned from this particular personal development organization that, like I said, was one of those organizations that just wanted you on their 401k plan, meaning you were going to be with them forever and you're going to become more dependent upon them, which I see a lot in certain personal development and therapy and medical avenues, where you're not necessarily empowering somebody to move through and integrate stress. You're teaching them how to live with stress, right? And so obviously learning how to cope with something means that you're going to be doing that forever. I'm not interested in doing that with people. And so one of the techniques that I used to teach people, and if you're watching this and you were one of those people that I taught this to, like, I formally apologize. Intentions were good, but it's not the way to go, especially the way that I'm going to share how we were taught to use it. And so one of the things that you may have heard out there is that if you can focus on your breath for about 90 seconds, your brain can't produce the stress response anymore. So if you do some deep breathing, 4 to 5 second inhale and a 4 to 5 second exhale, and you just focus on your breath, it will turn your alarm off, right? And so could that be useful? Absolutely. But if that is the end game and that's the purpose of it, this is a bad idea. This is like, your alarm going off in your house because someone's breaking into your house, and you just get up out of bed and turn the alarm off because the alarm's so annoying, and you go back to bed. It's like, well, okay, well, at least I can sleep now because this loud alarm's not going off. Well, yeah, but your house is getting robbed, okay? And so what we have to use meditation for, if we're going to use it, is to do what the stress response is giving us an opportunity to do. So instead of turning off the alarm, okay, what the alarm and stress response is doing is it's increasing metabolic activity, which means it's increasing energy, right? So it's giving you more energy. There's an uptick in energy. Now, why would the stress response increase the energy in the system, right? Well, the reason why it's doing that is it's because it's like, hey, we need to address this problem. We need to address a problem. And so if we want to use meditation or reflection, contemplation, we want to use it as a way to direct this energy so that we can assess the problem and address the problem, right? This is where meditation is helpful, okay? And so if we're going to use meditation, the ways that it is very harmful is when we use it to disconnect, numb, or distract ourselves. Okay, so what does that look like? A lot of times we'll use different breathing, different focuses with the mind to disconnect from reality. Okay, and so where is this common? And I saw this so much in my personal development, the personal development company that I worked with. I mean, people were in situations, bad environments, and instead of teaching them how to assess and address the problems in their environment, they were just taught how to stay centered and how to turn off any emotion that's happening, because you can be happy and content in any environment, which is insane, right? But it also perpetuates this idea that, well, if I can't get myself to know peace or be joyful in this environment, there's something wrong with me. So I just need to do more work, right? I just need to meditate harder. I just need to do these practices more. This is crazy town, right? Because if there are things in your environment, right? If the system is being flagged as, hey, there's some kind of problem, there's a stressor, there's a potential issue in the environment, in your space, maybe within your body, like, it should be addressed, right? And that's what the alarm is telling us. So if we disconnect from these things, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. Yes, maybe in the moment it feels a little bit better, right? But I've literally seen people, and I know many of them, that to this day have a lot of chaos going in their life, but they've trained their brain through meditation to convince themselves that everything's fine. Everything's great. I just accept, and I just choose to be a loving and joyful person. Meanwhile, their nervous system is on fire because nothing's being addressed. This is what I call the chronic stress cycle. Their nervous system is on fire because the nervous system is saying, no, things are not okay, despite what you keep trying to convince your brain of, right? The analogy I usually give is it would be like you walking around in the Amazon jungle with all of these, dangerous predators and poisonous snakes and poison dart frogs. By the way, do you know those things exist? They do in the Amazon, poison dart frogs. So we're walking around in an environment that's got some danger in it, but you are continually meditating, reflecting, contemplating, and directing your focus to convince yourself that you're in Hawaii on the beach. This is not a good idea, okay? And this is a dissociative reality. I'm dissociating from my reality because of the discomfort and creating an alternative reality using meditation. Not a good idea. Okay, now, where this is useful, disconnecting from reality, is when you have no choice. And this is children. Children don't have a choice when they're in terrible environments to disconnect from the reality, because what are their options? They don't really have any, right? And so people that have a tendency to disconnect from the reality and create alternate realities using meditation and focusing on love and focusing on joy, even though their life is like walking around in a war zone. Usually they learn this as children, okay? And so they're just doing what works, right, when they were a kid. Now, the difference between a child and an adult is a child can't change their situation, their environment, okay? They don't have the power to do that. But as an adult, you do, okay? Now, as an adult, if you grew up with a nervous system that was taught that you have to dissociate from reality because the world is a dangerous place, well, that same nervous system is living inside of you at the age of 40. And so you may still be doing that, okay? And this is where some of these meditative practices, I see that they're preying on these people. And I was part of an organization that did that. And so, this is why I'm determined to educate as many people as possible so that you can use meditation in a way that's helpful. Okay. And so disconnecting, numbing, and distracting. The other thing that I see happens with meditation is to distract ourselves from the problems that our nervous system is flagging, right? Instead of addressing them, we will get our brains to focus on other things. Okay. One of the things I see that can be, again, it can be destructive, is gratitude, right? Where we're constantly focusing on being grateful for something as a way to distract from things that aren't okay and that need to be addressed, okay? We're going to talk about gratitude in a second here, because gratitude practices are really helpful when applied in the proper way. But if it's being used to distract or numb ourselves from the problems in our life, this is not helpful, okay? So those are some of the more harmful ways that meditation, can manifest. Let's talk about some of the helpful ways that meditation, can be used. So one of the most powerful uses of meditation that I've seen is exactly that. It's a reflection on my current reality, okay? So getting connected to reality. So I know that kind of sounds silly, but very, very frequently when I work with people, especially people that are running around like crazy and quote unquote have no time to do anything, a lot of times that's just busy work to distract from reality, right? And so to sit and reflect and get connected to, okay, what am I feeling right now? Where am I, right? Am I in the Amazon jungle? What's happening in my reality right now? What's happening in my relationships? You have to move towards the truth, okay? You have to move towards reality, because there's no way to get out of the Amazon jungle if you've convinced yourself you're in Hawaii. You can't. You can't navigate your way out of the Amazon if you've convinced yourself you're somewhere else. So where contemplation and reflection, meditation is helpful is to get connected to reality. And that's where you sit down and you really start to give yourself permission to ask, like, how am I feeling? Where am I right now in my life? How do I feel in my body? What am I sensing? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And when I think about my work, what's the reality of this? Do I really like what I'm doing? Do I hate it? How do I feel about the relationships in my life? Do I feel like it's a place that I can be myself? Like, get brutally honest with yourself about what's happening in your life. There's no way you're going to be able to get in touch with the problems that your nervous system is trying to tell you if you are using meditation to disconnect, numb, or distract yourself. Okay, it's not helpful. So get connected to reality. The second thing that's really useful about certain meditative practices is to drop into what's called a parasympathetic state. Okay, and so your nervous system has two switches. You can think of it this way. It's got the fight or flight, and it's got the rest and recover. Okay. And fight or flight is, obvious, right? It's when we're in this kind of drive to either accomplish something we need to do. That's when fight or flight drive is really useful. But when fight or flight is overly activated, like in the chronic stress cycle, which is this world right here, your sympathetic state is on overdrive. Okay, your fight or flight is on overdrive, and you're just in survival mode. You're literally, I got so many things to do, I can't sit still. You're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And there's no way that you're going to be able to assess and address what's really important. It's really impossible. So there are really helpful meditative practices that can just get your brain to get out of that get out of that fight or flight sympathetic state and drop into a parasympathetic state, which is more rest and recovery, and actually gives you access to your frontal lobe so you can assess and address. Okay, one very easy breathing or meditative practice that you can do to help switch off the sympathetic and into the parasympathetic is a deep breath with a sigh. Okay, so it's a deep breath in through the nose for about 4 to 5 seconds. So you can try it with me right now. So breathe in through the nose. 3, 4, 5. At the top of your breath, take one more quick inhale through the nose and then sigh. If you just did that with me, I guarantee you felt your whole system relax. Okay. You may see this kind of breathing cadence with children that are trying to calm themselves down, right? If you have kids, you're around kids and they go, that is an instinctual breathing reflex to help calm down, okay? And so that deep sigh breath is an excellent thing to do when you feel like you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to use a meditative practice or focus to drop into a parasympathetic state so that I can assess and address the problems, the things that my nervous system is flagging. Great. The last thing I want to share when it comes to helpful things from meditation, when meditation can be helpful, is something I shared earlier, is gratitude. Okay, so gratitude is very, very, very powerful and is an excellent way to put your mind in a proper state to get you out of kind of that feeling of lack and I'm not enough and I haven't gotten there yet. And so, but I will say, like I said, like it has to be applied in the proper situations with the proper objective. We don't want to use gratitude as a way to dissociate or disconnect from a problem that we have, right? So here's an extreme example. Let's say you have somebody in your life that's, maybe they're abusive, maybe they're someone that you really can't depend on, maybe it's pretty obvious that they don't align with what you're trying to create in your life, who you're trying to be in your life. I mean, I've worked with people, and in some cases it's like, man, there's so many things about this relationship that's holding you back and that is toxic. But what they'll say to you, they'll say, yeah, but I'm so grateful that, they do this, and I'm grateful that they do that. And when it's applied in that context, it actually demotivates you to address the problem. Okay. An extreme example is like, well, I know he's kind of emotionally abusive and sometimes can be physical, but he does, give me money to pay for groceries. It's like, okay, that's a good thing, sure, but is it possible that we could find someone who helps you financially or plays a role in that and isn't abusive, right? Like, so, I think sometimes gratitude, when applied in the wrong way, can have us settle for things in our life that we shouldn't settle for. Okay, and there's a way to navigate all that. But I do think gratitude's powerful, and I do think it's something that you want to put into your practice. But you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be, real with yourself. Am I using gratitude as a way to keep myself in a state of grace, of abundance, so that I can move forward, in the most beneficial way? Or am I using it as a way to dissociate from something I need to address? Okay. And then the last thing here is visualization. Using meditation for visualization is also extremely powerful. In other videos, I'll talk about kind of the anti-stress mindset or the performance mindset. And visualization is one of those huge things that can really help, again, keep you motivated and inspired every day to move towards the things that are meaningful and important to you. And also train your brain to look and measure backwards and remember and visualize things from your past where you overcame challenges, where you crushed it, where you were able to execute on A, B, and C, right? It's important to train our brain to remember those things, our capacity from the past, and the strengths we've cultivated, especially through challenges. I think so many people forget to measure backwards and be like, listen, man, like you're a capable human. You've overcome incredible things. Like, don't forget that. And remember what it was like to overcome that and the strengths and the capacity. And you can feel yourself, you can visualize yourself at moments in the past where you overcame something or you accomplished something, right? Like, these are important things to continually reflect back on and contemplate, because it reminds you of the capacity that you have and keeps you motivated and inspired to keep moving forward, right? And then, of course, visualizing yourself executing, maybe in a sport, you see yourself executing, the golf swing. You see yourself, executing a presentation at work, a project that you're going to share with somebody, something you're going to execute, seeing yourself and feeling what it's like to execute at a high level. These are incredibly powerful meditative techniques. Okay, so I hope that gives you some perspective here on, does meditation actually work, and when is meditation harmful, and what you got to watch for with some of these practices, and the ways that meditation is really helpful, and making sure that you're doing this much more than you're doing this. If this hit home and you want to learn the traps causing your chronic stress and break 3 in 5 days, make sure you join the wait list now on my Chronic Stress Immunity Challenge to lock in 20% off. Tap the first link in the description, enter your email, and you'll get 20% off when it launches. Now, this 5-day challenge is live, and so if you're not on the list, you can miss the kickoff, and the 20% off is only good for those on the wait list. So click the link now, put your name and email in, and you'll be on the wait list. I'll see you there.